Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivinoda Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shundavari Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaura Bhaktarina Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaura Bhaktarina Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giridwaradhari Giridwaradhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jai Praja Janaranjana Jai Yashoda Nandana Jai Praja Janaranjana Jai Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kuncha Bihari Jai Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kuncha Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kuncha Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kuncha Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Giridwaradhari Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jai Praja Janaranjana Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jai Praja Janaranjana Jai Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundar, Nitai Sachi Sundar, Nitai Sachi Sundar, Nitai Sachi Sundar. Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundar, Nitai Sachi Sundar, Nitai Sachi Sundar, Jaya Nitai Sachi Sundar. Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. There seems to be a lot of people there. Hare Krishna, thank you for coming. Welcome everyone. And I will hand you over straight. I don't know how many people we got here. Plenty of people. I'll hand you over straight to Sundar Gopal Prabhuji. Now I lost him. Picture in just a moment's time. Here we are. Welcome Sundar Gopal Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm so happy to be here. It feels very much like a visit directly to Leicester. I recognize some of the names of the devotees who are here today. I want to thank you for coming today, and thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be in your company. So I'll begin with a short Mangala Charana, or an auspicious invocation. Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. He Shri Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Swananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavanasina Hitavatara Prasidha Radha Pranaya Prachara Yuvatinam Yata Yuni Yunancha Yuvato Yata Mano Bhiramate Tadvan Mano bhiramatang tvai rasang prashangsantu kavitvanishta brahmamritang veda shiro nivishta vayang tu gunja kalitavatang sang grihitavang shankamapi shrayama trinadapi sunichena Tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First, I offer my Dandavat Pranam at the lotus feet of my dear spiritual master, Nitya Leela Pravishtom Vishnupad, Shishimad Srila Bhaktivinoda Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my Dandavat Pranam again and again at the lotus feet of Nitya Leela Pravishtom Vishnupad, Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I offer my Dandavat Pranam to all the Acharyas in our Vaishnav lineage. And I offer my Dandavat Pranam to all of you, the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and beg you for your causeless mercy. So the subject for today is how Sri Krishna steals the hearts of his devotees. So first, I thought I would begin with a few details from Shastra about how dear the jivas are to Sri Krishna. Because sometimes we may have the impression that because our attention is turned away from Krishna and we don't have access, we don't have perception of Sri Krishna in the conditioned state. So it may feel to us sometimes that we're alone. But Krishna is so dear to us that he follows us wherever we go. So all of the various lifetimes that we have passed in this material world, in so many different species of life, sometimes in very affluent situations, sometimes as queens and kings, sometimes as demigods, and sometimes as insects, or various animals and plants, always Sri Krishna as Paramatma, the soul of the soul, has accompanied us. So you may know that Srila Jiva Goswami, he has written the Sandarbhas. Sandarbhas, there are 6 Sandarbhas, which are the theological foundation of our Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage. And in the Paramatma Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, has a very special jewel, which he wears always. I don't know if any of you know the name of this jewel. If you do, then see if you can type it in the message box. Does anyone know the name of a particular jewel? It's a jewel that has limitless, multicolored rays that emanate from it in all directions. So it's not the peacock feather, although Krishna always wears, Sri Krishna wears the peacock feather. But it's a jewel that's known as the Kaustuba gem. So this Kaustuba gem, it has limitless rays that come from it. And each one of those rays is an individual jiva. So it is each of us. And that the jivas are so dear to Krishna that Krishna wears this jewel on his chest always and keeps it with him always. It's also explained in the various shastras that Krishna, the Supreme Lord's relationship, so the Supreme Lord's relationship with the jiva is like a cow and a calf. So if you've ever seen a calf taking birth, right, when the calf comes out of the womb, the calf has like a skin from the womb still around the baby calf, and the baby calf is all wet and sticky. So the calf is in an impure state, right? With part of the body, I don't know what the medical term for that is, but like the lining are still around the calf, bluish in color, the skin, and it would be considered impure. But the cow has so much love for the calf that immediately the cow begins licking the calf without, thinking in terms of purity and impurity. So in the same way, it's explained that Sri Krishna, that the Supreme Lord has so much affection for each of the jivas that he doesn't look at others the way that we might look at someone. So when we look at someone in this world, we tend to try and understand who they are by assessing and weighing up all the flaws that they may have. But Krishna doesn't look at the jiva in that way, but always has immense affection, despite any situation that we may be in, despite the various difficulties we may have, despite the faults and conditioning that we may have. Krishna always has great affection for us. So when I read this in the commentaries of the Sri Vaishnavacharyas, one thought came to mind immediately, that if Krishna doesn't look at the faults of others, why should we look at the faults of others? Why should we go around and try to judge others based on any imperfections or faults that others may have? So you may be aware of a particular verse, which is a foundational verse in our tradition. And this verse is a verse that describes the 6 aspects of Sharanagati. Sharanagati is to take exclusive shelter of Krishna. So it's surrender to Sri Krishna. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati vishvaso goptritre varanang tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidha sharanagati. So there are 6. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura explains Sacha Sharanapati Lakshanam, that faith or Shraddha, which is the starting point on the path of bhakti, that faith or Shraddha, how do we know if we have it? How do we know? Because it'll manifest externally as these 6 symptoms. So Sharanagati, or taking complete shelter of Krishna, is the external manifestation of Shraddha, or deep transcendental faith. So the very first 2, we're going to have just a quick look at the very first 2 of these aspects of Sharanagati. There's 6 altogether. So the first one is Anukulyasya Sankalpa. Anukulyasya Sankalpa means to accept everything that is helpful or favorable for bhakti. And Pratikulyasya Varjanam means to reject without any hesitation, without looking back, to reject everything that's unhelpful or unfavorable to bhakti. So this verse actually comes from the Lakshmi Tantra. And the Lakshmi Tantra gives a lot of detail on the meaning of each one of these aspects of Sharanagati. And one of the meanings of Anukulyasya Sankalpa and Pratikulyasya Varjanam is Anukulyasya Sankalpa, to always have a favorable mood towards all others. That's one of the meanings. So in other words, to always think about the benefit of others. And Pratikulyasya Varjanam, to never have any kind of mood of enmity or mood of any mood that's unhelpful or that's opposed to other jivas. So that's foundational to bhakti. What it means is that we have not even developed shraddha or faith, the very first step of bhakti, if we have this mood of enmity and friend and enmity, in the way that Dhritarashtra has. So you are all, I'm sure, familiar with the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, where Dhritarashtra speaks, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimma kurvata sanjaya. That's that way of approaching the world, where you're thinking of my friends and my enemies. And that brings us into fear, lamentation, and confusion, the three types of suffering associated with time. But the Vaishnava never thinks in that way. They see everyone as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And they know that every jiva is very dear to the Supreme Lord. So they are always looking out for the welfare of other people. So by our nature, our very nature, our svarup, which means nature in Sanskrit, we are eternal servants of Krishna. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura explains that very carefully. He says, Krishna dasyoi sei bimal prem ataeva Krishna dasyaru premi jived svarup dharma. Servitude to Krishna is pure prema, pure devotion. Therefore, prema in the form of servitude to Krishna is the jiva's svarup dharma, or innate nature. Our innate nature is loving service for Krishna. We will never find fulfillment without awakening this nature, dormant nature that we have, which is a nature of pure love towards Sri Krishna. And Krishna is always looking for an opportunity to bring us closer to him, to steal away our heart. And today we'll have a look at a few beautiful pastimes of Sri Krishna, in which he steals away the hearts of his devotees. So one time there was a thief. And this thief, he was very good at breaking into homes or just following wealthy people and extracting their wealth in different ways. So one day, he lived in a town where it was difficult because there were not so many wealthy people. So one day he went to rest. In the day he went and looked for some shade, and he sat down, and he was sitting outside a temple. And in the temple, on the other side of a small wall, there was some harikatha, some glorification of Krishna. And someone was describing the beauty of Sri Krishna. So there are so many beautiful verses that describe the beauty of Sri Krishna. Let's go to the head of our sampradaya. The head of our sampradaya is Sri Brahma. he sings Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Krishna wears a peacock feather. And the reason he wears a peacock feather, or one of the reasons, is that it contains the name of Srimati Radhika, Radha, in the peacock feather. If you look carefully, you can see that the Devanagari Radha in the center of a peacock feather. So this is Sri Krishna's, like his, by wearing the peacock feather, he's saying that he belongs to his devotees. In particular, he belongs to Srimati Radhika, Sri Radha. And he's the complexion of a dark rain cloud. Or sometimes Srila Rupa Goswami explains like a dark blue sapphire. And his eyes are like the blossoming petals of a lotus flower. So Sri Brahma, he's struggling to describe Krishna's beauty because the words of this world are very limited. So he thinks, oh, I know how. I'm going to try to explain this. And he says, Kandarpa koti kamani avishesha shobham. So, you know, in this world, you may have experienced this. Maybe teenagers often experience this. How a teenager becomes infatuated with a boy, becomes infatuated with a girl, or a girl becomes infatuated with a boy. Now, in this world, this is material love. So it's not spiritual love. It's based on the desire to enjoy one's senses. But even in this world, that desire is, that feeling is very, very strong. So that's why Srila Rupa Goswami, he says, Yuvatinang yata yuni yunancha yuva yato yata. May my mind automatically run to Shri Krishna, just like the mind of a young boy runs towards a young girl, or the mind of a young girl runs towards a young boy. Let my mind, with that same natural strength and pull, run to Shri Krishna. So Sri Brahma, he says, he decides to use that to describe the beauty of Krishna. So when two young people in this world fall in love with each other, they cannot even, sometimes they're unable to eat, they're unable to sleep, they're always thinking about that other person. When that happens, we say that they have been struck by the arrow of Cupid. So Brahma here, one name of Cupid is Kandarpa. Brahma here says that when you see Krishna, when Krishna reveals himself, shows himself, it's not like being struck by a single arrow of Cupid. But Krishna is more beautiful than millions and millions of Cupids. You can just imagine the beauty of Krishna, how just seeing Krishna for a moment completely will pull us away from anything related to this material world. And therefore, the Vaishnav poets, they have sung, what's that famous song? Bandhu sange yaditava ranga parihas. Bandhu sange yaditava ranga parihas. And it's a very beautiful song. And in that song, the author, he says, don't go to Keshigat. Do not go to, if you value your friendships in this world, if you value your family life and your job, don't go to Keshigat. If you make the mistake and somehow you go to Keshigat, then definitely don't look. Keep your eyes very low or cover your eyes Because who lives at Keshigat on the banks of the Yamuna? Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna is to be found there at Keshigat. So don't even look at him for a moment. If by some misfortune you happen to glance, you happen to see Krishna, whatever happens, block your ears. Don't listen to his flute playing. If you listen to his flute playing, your heart will be pulled out of your body and you'll never return home. Your family members will come searching for you. They won't be able to find where you are because like a mad person, you'll be falling to the ground and lifting yourself up and rolling in the dust of Vrindavan. You'll be walking like a mad person through the forests of Vrindavan, calling out Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So whatever happens, if you value your material life, if you value the laughter in the company of material friends, don't go to Keshigat. Of course, this is a particular style of poetry. What the real meaning is definitely go to Keshigat. So like this, in this temple, there was the glorification of Sri Krishna. And there was also the Vaishnava who was speaking. He was describing the jewelry and the ornaments that Krishna wears, how he wears these jewels that are so precious. And at that moment, the thief's ears pricked. And he thought, this is very interesting. I have been working for so many years, trying to steal small amounts of money from people who guard their money very carefully. If I can find this boy Krishna, how difficult can it be to steal from a boy? Children tend to be innocent and maybe unprotected. I'll be able to steal his wealth. And these ornaments seem so precious. Pearls and sapphires and diamonds. I won't have to work ever again if I can gain that wealth. So he entered the temple and he asked questions. So who is Krishna? And what does he look like? And where can I find him? And the Vaishnava explained, well, he wears a peacock feather. You can identify him like this. And he grazes cows. He has calves, so many calves. Some of them are as white and as soft as milk. Some of them have a golden color. Their hooves and their horns are covered in gold. And Krishna takes these calves into the forests of Vrindavan. So the thief, he began going through the forests of Vrindavan, looking for Krishna. Many days passed as he went here and there, looking, where is Krishna? Surely he's going to come to this forest. Oh, look at these grasses here. They're so green. Surely this is a great place for grazing the calves. I'll wait here. Krishna will come. This thief became developed such a strong desire to find Krishna that he even forgot at times to eat, and at times he forgot to sleep. And when someone has that kind of yearning for Krishna, Krishna cannot help but listen. So one day, as the thief turned around, as the thief made his way out of a forest, suddenly he saw Krishna. Suddenly he heard a lot of sound of calves running like that. And there was a dust that filled the sky. And as the calves began coming past him, there in the distance, he saw Krishna holding a flute to his blossoming lips, decorated with flowers. And Krishna immediately ran to him and embraced him and said, oh, my friend, you've been looking for me for so many days. I'm so happy to have finally found you. And this thief and Krishna, they spent the whole day together, talking and playing in the forest. And when the sun began to set, Krishna said to him, "My friend, I have to go home now. My parents will be anxious if I don't leave. But let us meet here again tomorrow." And they went their separate ways. And the next day, Krishna again came with his calves. And the thief spent the whole day with Krishna, playing along the banks of the Yamuna, speaking about so many different things. And again in the evening, Krishna went back home. The next day, the thief came again, eager to meet Krishna. But Krishna didn't come. And the thief waited and waited. And he thought, what has happened to my friend? Has my friend forgotten me? Surely not. Or maybe some difficulty befell upon my friend. Maybe he's unwell. Maybe he got hurt. How is it that he hasn't been able to come today? And he waited from dawn till dusk. And then with great sadness and tears in his eyes, the thief went away. And he came back again the next day. And that next day, Krishna was there again. And Krishna said, "Oh, my friend, I'm sorry. I wasn't able to come yesterday. But I have something for you. This is something that you have wanted. So I want to give it to you." And he gave the thief a cloth bag, like a cloth that was tied up. And the thief took this and opened it. And when he opened it, he saw all of Krishna's jewelry, his earrings, his bracelets, his necklace. And Krishna said, "This is what you came for. So I want to give it to you as a gift, as a friend." And the thief, tears began to fall from his eyes. And his hands were trembling. And he gave that cloth bag back. And he said, "Oh, Krishna, my friend, I came with a bad motive. This is not what I want. Now, having met you, having spent time with you, having seen you, there's nothing that I want in this world. There is nothing that I want except this loving friendship, to have your loving friendship." Like this, Krishna stole the heart of the thief. And when Krishna steals your heart, when Krishna steals our heart, he purifies our heart completely. We may spend millions and millions of lifetimes. We may spend millions of births performing all kinds of activities to try and purify our heart, but it won't be effective. Hundreds of yagyas, thousands of activities for purification will in the end not have any effect, because the heart, the nature of the heart is to desire. And if we don't reawaken our connection with Krishna, we will desire the things of this world. But when Krishna decides to steal our heart, automatically as a side effect, our heart becomes completely purified. Krishna will steal our heart most often through the words of a Vaishnava or a Vaishnavi. So when we have the chance to hear from elevated Vaishnavas who really have the deep moods of devotion for Krishna, then through those exalted Vaishnavas, great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, by listening to their words, our hearts will be stolen away. That's Krishna himself, through the Vaishnavas, stealing our heart. So another time, there was a fruit seller. And this fruit seller came from Mathura. And she had so many varieties of different fruits. And she had heard so much about Krishna. Krishna was a very young boy, little child. He could just about walk. And when Krishna is that age, he will stay in the house of his father and mother. And usually this is before he takes the cows out, because he's so little. It was very difficult for anyone to see Krishna because he remains within the courtyard of Nanda Baba and Yashoda Maya. But this fruit seller, she so much wanted to see Krishna. She had heard so much about him. So she began selling her fruit and calling out, as fruit sellers do. But always she was thinking of Krishna. Maybe Krishna will come. Little Krishna will come. But Krishna didn't come. She would come back. Today, definitely, I'll have the chance to see him. So Krishna, although he's in the courtyard of his mother and father, he could not close his ears. He could not hear the heart of this fruit seller. So he came out just to see her. And he thought that he should also bring something. So he went to the storage rooms of his parents, and there he saw some grains. So he filled his hands with grains. But if you've seen a little child, their hands are so little, they can hardly hold anything. And the gaps between Krishna's fingers were large. So as he ran out like this, most of the grains all slipped between his fingers. And what he had in his little palms were just a few specks. But he offered that to the fruit seller and said, "Give me your best fruits." And he gave a few grains as his exchange. So the fruit seller said, "Well, I'll give you as many fruits as you can carry, but I ask only for one price. You should sit on my lap and call me mother." So little Krishna was very embarrassed to do that because he's outside. It's the first time he's meeting her. So he looked around if anyone was watching. And he couldn't see anyone at that moment. So he quickly jumped in her lap and said, "Mother," and jumped out. And then put his hands out. And the fruit seller filled his arms with as many fruits as he could carry. And Krishna returned back to the house of his parents. Having seen Krishna, having heard Krishna say Maya to her, and having felt Krishna's touch as he sat on her lap, she lost her sense of where she was. She picked up her basket and automatically, not knowing whether she was standing or walking, not knowing where she was going, she just wandered away towards the Yamuna River. What had happened is that Krishna had converted all of the fruit in her basket to the most precious gems. So no longer was she carrying fruit, she now was carrying gems and ornaments of inestimable value. But as she crossed the Yamuna River, she had no interest in these things. And she tossed her basket into the waters of the Yamuna. And no one knows where she went and what happened to her. But all she was thinking of is Krishna, Govinda, Damodar. We have time for one last story, one last pastime of Sri Krishna. This is the story of a young girl, a gopi, who had never seen Krishna before. but she too had heard so much about him. She had heard about his indescribable beauty. And every morning, Krishna takes the cows into the forest. And this is a real opportunity. It's a festival for the residents of Braj. They all come out of their homes to see Krishna as he, along with his friends and so many cows, make their way into the forests for the day. Now, Krishna is even more beautiful when he returns from the forest. When he returns from the forest filled with dust, he's even more beautiful than when he enters into the forest. When Krishna enters into the forest and he dances as he makes his way and plays his flute, something very strange happens. The nature of everything becomes inverted. So moving things become still like statues. So the birds, they become like so stunned to hear Krishna's flute playing that it's as if they become lifeless. So the birds in the trees, they look like ornaments because they're not moving. And what is immovable, it begins to move. So trees begin, the branches of the trees begin to bow down and flowers start falling from them as an offering to Krishna. The rivers begin, the Yamuna River begins to flow backwards. The stones begin to melt. What is hot feels like cold. What's feel incredibly hot. At that time, the cows, hearing Krishna's flute, their ears stand up and become larger, like cups, to take in the beautiful sound of his flute. And the calves who are drinking from the udders of the milk from the udders of their cows, they become stunned, and the milk simply flows out of their mouth. So this day, Krishna decided to make his way to the forest through that particular village where this young gopi lived, because he wanted especially to meet her. So there was a lot of commotion in the village because everyone could see that Krishna and his friends were coming through the village and were not far away. So the stepmother of this young gopi said, "You cannot stay indoors. Don't come out. Keep the doors of your home closed and the windows, the shutters closed. This is for your own protection." The young gopi said, "But I see that you are going out to see Krishna passing through. If you can go, why can't I go?" And she shook her head. She said, "You don't understand the danger. You should learn to listen to your elders who are more experienced and who know what is helpful and what is unhelpful. I advise and instruct you, stay indoors like an eclipse. When there's an eclipse, you have to stay indoors. You don't look. You close everything and you just wait for that time to pass." So she went indoors, but she was determined to see Krishna. So there was a little crack in the door, and she began to look through that. So Krishna, as he was passing with his friends, there was a little calf in front of Krishna, and Krishna twisted the tail of the calf as a sign to the calf. And the calf ran forward, began jumping like this. And the doors opened. And suddenly, in a moment, this gopi, she found herself in front of Krishna. And filled with shyness, she looked down. And Krishna took his flute in his hand, like this. and lifted her chin with his flute and smiled at her, and then went on his way, continued on his way into the forest. And in that moment, through that look of Krishna, through that smile of Krishna, Krishna stole away her heart. And even though Krishna and his friends had long gone into the forest, all the dust had settled, a long time had passed, still this young girl was standing there, looking into the distance like a statue. Her stepmother shook her and said, "What has happened to you? You didn't obey my instruction. Now you're facing the consequences. The only way that you can be cured of this, maybe, is through hard work. Here, take this churning rod and begin churning yogurt to make butter." So she took the churning rod, and suddenly there was a hard grating sound, like instead of churning yogurt to make butter, she had placed the rod into sesame seeds and was churning sesame seeds, completely absent-minded, because her heart and her mind had been stolen away by Shri Krishna. So the stepmother, seeing this, said, "No, no, 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 no. Here, I'm going to give you a different task. Shake yourself out of this. Maybe you need to go on a walk. Here, take these pots and fill them with water. And here, this little infant, look after this infant as well. Go to the well in the center of the village and go and fetch some water." So she made her way through the village to the well at the heart of the village. And she began, she put the baby down, and she began tying a rope around one of the vessels to lower it into the well. And as she was doing that, all the villagers ran forward and said, "Stop, stop, stop, what are you doing? Stop." Because instead of putting the rope around the pot, the earthen vessel, she was putting the rope around the child. They said, "Stop, stop. We know what has happened to you. You have lost you've lost your senses. You have been possessed, as if possessed by a ghost, the ghost of Shyam. Go home. I don't know if there's anything that can cure you." So this young girl made her way home, and her mind and heart were completely taken by Shri Krishna, that she no longer had eyes for anything else in this world. So this is what Srila Rupa Goswami prays for. This is what he expresses in the prayer, Yuvatinang yata yuni yunancha yuvato yata mano bhiramate tadvan mano bhiramatang tvai. Let my mind, let my heart be stolen away by Krishna. When we are so fortunate that we even develop a small amount, like the smallest attraction to Krishna, we should guard that very carefully, because it's the greatest wealth. It's actually the wealth of the awakening of our own true spiritual nature. Our nature is prema for Shri Krishna. Our nature is to have our heart stolen away by Krishna. And everything that we do in our spiritual life is to bring us in that direction. So I want to finish just with one little explanation, one little point from the Maha Mantra, which is so important, because it's such an important part of our practice, isn't it? The chanting of the names of Sri Krishna. So the word Krishna, you will never find in Sanskrit the word Krishna just like that, Krishna. You'll find Krishnam, Krishnaha, Krishnaya, Krishnat, Krishnasya, Krishne, Krishnat. But Krishna is only found in one circumstance in the Sanskrit language, and that is in the vocative case. The vocative case is when you call out, when you address someone. Then you use Krishna. If you say Krishna went, then you would say Krishna. You would not say Krishna in Sanskrit. You would say Krishna. If you say, I'm giving this to Krishna, it would be Krishnam. So, but if you actually call out or you address Krishna, then it's Krishna. So in the Maha Mantra, we have Krishna, which means that it's vocative. It's meant to be addressed. It's an address to Krishna. So if we're chanting, if we're uttering the Maha Mantra, but we're not calling out to Krishna, then our chanting of the Maha Mantra is incomplete. It may sound right, but it's incomplete. And if it's incomplete, we can never have mantra siddhi. Mantra siddhi means perfection in the mantra. We gain perfection in the mantra when we utter the Maha Mantra with feeling, directly addressing Sri Krishna. And when we directly address Sri Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada explains, just like a child calling for his mother, then Sri Krishna, who's so affectionate to us, he immediately will arrange the circumstances by which he will provide all the help that we need, by which we can come to him, by which he can steal away our hearts and our sojourn in this material world of birth, old age, illness, and death will come to an end. And our nature, our true nature of the soul will awaken. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Shri Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I don't know if we have time. Do we have time for a few questions?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. If any of you have any questions or you want to add anything or correct anything, now is a good time. Hare Krishna, Rashmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question for you. That was a very nice class. So sweet it was. I have a question. So, you said at the end about feeling in chanting. So
Yes.
I chant, but I chant out of duty, and it's very burdensome. I'm forever watching. Oh, when will this finish? It is more of, I've got to just finish it off somehow, anyhow. So this feeling which you're talking about when we are actually calling out to Krishna, does that just happen through, eventually I will reach that stage? When does that happen?
Very, very good question. Very good question. So there is a verse that's very important. Nama parada yuktanam naman yeva harantyagam. Even though we may be uttering Krishna's name, but we're doing it with offense, aparad. So to do something with the sense that, it's a little bit like this. Imagine if I'm calling one of you. So if I say Rashmi Mataji, but when I'm saying it, I'm not looking at you. I'm doing something else. There's a certain disrespect there because it's inattentive. It's inattentive. So when we address Krishna inattentively, then there's a certain disrespect. But this verse says that even though we may be guilty of different types of disrespect, different types of aparad, we should still continue to chant, because gradually those, if we do that and we try to pay attention also to the disrespect and to overcome that, gradually those habits will become, they will fall away. So whatever happens, the first part of the answer is whatever happens, don't give up chanting Krishna's names. But it will be very important to cross beyond that. And the first step is to develop a desire to do so. So the first step is to see, yes, I am doing my Harinam, my japa with this habit, and I would like to overcome that. That desire is a starting point. And then what may happen is when we pick up our mala, we may hopefully begin looking at it in a different way. Sometimes our acharyas have explained that the mala is like the lotus feet of Krishna. We can see the mala as the lotus feet of Krishna. If we think, I'm now touching the lotus feet of Krishna, how would we do that? Our hands would be trembling. So we develop a new relationship with the mala and a new relationship with Krishna's name. When we utter Krishna's name, that's Krishna directly. Not like the things of this world, where the name of something and the thing itself are just random. So, like I have here a plant behind me. So the word plant, who knows how that word came about? It could be called anything else. And in different languages, it's called something else. But the name Krishna is non-different from Krishna himself. So the name is when we're uttering Krishna's name, that is Krishna himself. Sometimes we think Krishna is contained in the name. That's wrong. Krishna is the name. Krishna is his name. So we develop a very sacred and new relationship with that practice. That practice becomes something very sacred. And then another thing may happen, and this is all Shastra explains that this is the most important of all. And that is that through association, through the company of sadhus who have a natural, spontaneous mood of devotion, and by listening to them, that mood will enter our own heart. And that is why sadhu sangha, sarva shastre koi, lava matra sadhu sange, sarva siddhi hoy. Even a moment's association with truly a sadhu can bestow all perfection. Why? Because that mood of devotion may enter into our own heart. And for that reason, if there's ever any opportunity to listen to sadhus or to serve sadhus, we give that priority in our practice. Because we can chant Krishna's names for 1,000,000 lifetimes. But if we're chanting Namaparad, the effects will be very limited. But if somehow we develop an attraction towards Krishna's pastimes, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, then very quickly we'll be able to cross all of the obstacles on our path of devotion. Very quickly we'll cross beyond anartha nivritti, nishta, and ruchi will develop, which is taste for chanting. And then asakti, attachment. And then bhav. At the stage of bhav bhakti, someone has the qualification actually he may or she may have some glimpse of Krishna. And Srila Rupa Goswami describes what this is like. He says, Tunde tandavini rating vitanute tundavali labdahi. Karna kroda kadambini gatayate karnar budebhya spriham. Cheta prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim. No jane janita kiyadpiramrite krishneti varanadvahi. Srila Rupa Goswami says, I cannot describe how much happiness, how much fulfillment and bliss is contained in those two syllables, Krish and Na. When those syllables are uttered, one desires to have not just one ear, 2 ears, but millions and millions of ears. One desires to have not just one tongue, but countless tongues. Because upon uttering those syllables, Krishna actually is dancing in the courtyard of the heart. And as a result, all of the senses become inert. So someone who reaches that stage where they're actually uttering Krishna's name, Krishna's actually manifesting. They have the perception and the understanding that direct perception, Krishna and Krishna's names are non-different. So this is an elevated stage, but we should not think it's mythology. We should not think that this is so far away that it doesn't exist. This is what we're aspiring for. We hold that as the treasure for which our practice is aiming for. At the same time, we don't pretend. We're very realistic. We know where we are, each of us, at different levels. So we don't try, never we, whatever progress we make in our practice, we don't share it with anyone. We keep it as a secret. But we protect it very carefully. And we aspire for what Srila Prabhupada and the Goswamis have described. That at some one day, and we can chant like this, Hare Krishna, praying one day, maybe the syllable Krish or the syllable Na will manifest in our heart. At that point, our life in this material world is broken. We will have no more. We become freed from material existence because Krishna has will reveal himself through or as his holy name. So to sum up on an answer to this question, which is such a great question, we never give up our practice. That's one aspect. Whatever happens, whatever challenges, we never give up our practice. Number two, we aspire for the goal of our practice. Number three, that aspiration becomes, it develops in us a new relationship with our practice, with the mala, with our practice of chanting Krishna's name. And fourth, we look for any opportunity to hear from and serve the Vaishnavas who have that treasure in their hearts. And we have so many opportunities, even if we live in different countries. We have the recordings of Srila Prabhupada. We have the books of Srila Prabhupada. We have the books of our Goswamis. Srila Prabhupada, so powerful what he says about the Mahamantra. Trying to remember how he begins this. Well, one place he says, this Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. By hearing the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived. So hearing Srila Prabhupada, his bhajans, his kirtans, that potency can enter our hearts by his mercy. and completely change our relationship with our practice. And then rather than doing something because it's some kind of a forced practice, we won't be able to stop chanting. Any other questions? Oh, which question should we take? Anila, okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's a question also linked to the previous question in terms of the chanting. I feel that I am concentrated and I am dedicating every word, but I don't know, it's based on maybe a possible conflict of information. I had been told that we should be chanting one mala in less than 10 minutes. I was going to be given the reason for that. I haven't been given that yet, but so I've been trying my utmost, following guidance, to do it below 10 minutes. And in that way, it's fairly rushed. So does that rush also pertain to being disrespectful?
Right. Different practitioners will take a different amount of time.
Right.
But sometimes it's said that one should try to keep within 10 minutes, simply because if one isn't, if it's taking like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that usually, or that can be a sign that we're distracted.
Right.
So, you know, if for example, we're chanting and then we have a conversation, or we're chanting or we become absent-minded and we stop halfway. So then the one mala will take, may take 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So in order to try and focus, that's given as a guideline. It's just a guideline. It's a guideline. And some of us will take a little bit longer. Some of us will take a shorter amount of time. There is something that I have experienced, that many devotees have experienced, that those moments in our practice when we are chanting with absorption, real absorption, and we have no desire to stop chanting, one mala becomes like 4 minutes. It's like there's something that happens with time. I can't explain it, but and it then actually becomes possible to do 32 rounds, 64 rounds in an incredible amount of time without skipping beats. Just there's this kind of absorption that that alters the way that the practice unfolds.
I absolutely feel that absorption. So I just didn't want to be doing it incorrectly, but that's perfect. Thank you for that. That's completely reassuring.
That's great.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We'll take one more question and then we'll finish, as it's getting a little bit late. Okay. Well, in that case, let's stop here for today. As I mentioned, it's a real honor to spend time with you in your association. Please, with your kindness and blessings, I might be able to develop in my own spiritual life. And so I offer my pranam to you. And I hope one of these days to be able to meet you in person, maybe when this current pandemic is over, and we have the chance to do Kirtan together again. I look forward to that day. Hare Krishna.
That's just the start of it.
Hare Krishna. Sundar Gopal Prabhu.
A toll on farming families.
Hare Krishna Vasanti Mataji.
Expecting you to have someone come here to your farm to shoot the pigs that you...
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. That was a really very nice class. Thank you.
If there's anything of value in it, it comes from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, and any limitations and faults are wholly my own. Shall we finish? Shall we finish with some kirtan, maybe?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Sundar Gopal Prabhu ki Jai. It was absolutely beautiful. And I have to say, this is my experience also. Huh? Mystically, in some way or another, if getting fully absorbed in the chanting, huh, the rounds are just flying by. Huh? I don't know how it happens. It's just amazing, getting fully absorbed in the chanting. Huh? Then 16 rounds are done in no time. Huh? It just seems to be the beats, the 108 malas becoming only half as much. Something mystical is happening there when we're getting absorbed. And if we just carrying on it just goes on all day long, then yes, there's so many distractions. So again, thank you, Sundar Gopal Prabhu, Hare Krishna. And I very dearly hope one day we all physically come together again and having Kirtan together and sharing prasadam together and having arti together. That would be very nice. And that day will come. Hare Krishna. So we'll do a little bit of Kirtan. We don't go on to tonight till 9 o'clock. We're doing a bit of Kirtan and then we stop there. I thought originally maybe we do some Bhagavatam verse, but that let's keep that impression from that talk in our mind and not get it distracted with anything else. And I will remind everyone, this program, which we have tonight, we have every Saturday at the same time, 7 o'clock, with the same link. We have a program where we come together and we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So you're most welcome. Tonight, we had almost 20 devotees here. 18, 19, changes, some leaving, someone leaves, someone else comes. So why not? We just heard how important the association of devotees is. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrikaya. Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Haya. So, come next Saturday, 7 o'clock, same link. I'll send out an invitation on our WhatsApp group. If you want to be included in the WhatsApp group, let me know. Some of you maybe have come from Facebook. I don't know. So we will announce it on Facebook and we'll announce it on that WhatsApp group. But the time is the same, 7 o'clock every Saturday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe, Radha Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha, Gokulananda Radha, Gokulananda Radhe, Radha Gokulananda Radha, Gokulananda Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha London Ishvara, Radha London Ishvara, Radha London Ishvara Radhe, Radha London Ishvara, Radha London Ishvara, Radha London Ishvara Radhe, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan Radhe, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radha Govinda Chi Radha, Govinda Chi Radha, Govinda Radhe, Radha Govinda Chi Radha, Govinda Radha, Govinda Chi Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha, Gopinatha Radha, Gopinatha Radhe, Radha Gopinatha Radha, Gopinatha Radha, Gopinatha Radhe, Radha Damodara Radha, Damodara Radha, Damodara Radhe, Radha Damodara Radha, Damodara Radha, Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Ramana Radha, Ramana Radha, Ramana Radhe, Radha Ramana Radha, Ramana Radha, Ramana Radhe, Jaya Radha Shyam Sundarata, Shyam Sundarata, Shyama Sundarate, Radha Shyam Sundarata, Shyam Sundarata, Shyam Sundarate, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Radhe Jaya Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan, 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 Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Nittai Sachi Sundar, Nittai Sachi Sundar, Nittai Sachi Sundar, Jaya Nittai Sachi Sundar, Nittai Sachi Sundar, Jaya Nittai Sachi Sundar, Nittai Sachi Sundar, Jaya Nittai Sachi Sundar, Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha bhaditanam Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Goho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Let us offer our most respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They're just like desire trees, and they're full of compassion to the fallen and conditioned souls, and they can fulfill everyone's spiritual desires. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Here we stop for tonight. Thank you very much. Come again next Saturday. We're reading and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. We at the 11th chapter of the first canto, Lord Krishna enters Dwarka. It's a beautiful, beautiful pastimes are there, beautiful description how Lord Krishna enters Dwarka and how the inhabitants of Dwarka greeting him and so forth. Do please come next Saturday, same time, 7 o'clock, same link. If you from somewhere outside of came through Facebook, do get in touch and we'll add you to the notification. Hare Krishna. Ananda Gudi Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That was such a nice class.
Wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Special welcome to Rajesh and Poonam.
Thank you.
Come again next Saturday. We love to see you.
Thank you.
This was a mesmerizing session. I will just love that. Definitely next time you will be coming.
Yes, See you on Saturday, next Saturday. Hare Krishna. And
Hare
thank you, Raj, for putting all your commitments aside and coming here. That was beautiful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. It was lovely. I just caught a little glimpse, but I wish I'd seen the whole, episode.
Well,
But
it is recorded, and we'll put it on YouTube, and you can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. But
Hare
anyway,
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.